Hi everyone, thanks for being here. My name is Matthew Arndt. I've spent nearly 30 years working in finance on the inside, and that has given me a front row seat to see how the system actually works. It tore down the fairy tales we're taught in business schools, those clean case studies and polished theories that conveniently ignore power, inequality, and who the game is really rigged for. Today I want to talk about private equity, or as I like to call it, how a handful of ultra-wealthy assholes figured out how to quietly buy up America using other people's money, strip it for parts, bleed it dry, and walk away richer while your cousin gets laid off, your healthcare premiums go up, and your rent keeps climbing. So buckle up. We're diving into a world of debt-fueled takeovers, vanishing pensions, and why your favorite store from the 90s is now a spirit Halloween. So what do crappy service, unaffordable housing, rising costs, bankruptcies, mass layoffs, and stagnant wages all have in common? More often than not, they trace back to the same source: aggressive private equity buyouts and ruthless cost cutting in critical industries. Most people don't even know what private equity is. Its fingerprints are everywhere. They quietly buy up hospitals, housing, newspapers, grocery stores, retail chains, then saddle them with debt, strip out the value, and bleed them dry. This isn't investing. This is vampire capitalism. Jobs vanish, prices surge, services collapse, and entire communities are left to rot. I'm here to tell you that private equity is one of the most powerful, least understood forces in our economy, and it's not just threatening workers or neighborhoods, it's eroding the foundation of democracy itself. Private equity sounds great in theory. They say they buy struggling companies, fix them up, create value, and sell them for profit. Sounds noble, right? That's the myth. Private equity firms want you to see them as financial first responders, saving companies, streamlining operations, and injecting smart capital. In reality, they're financial parasites. They buy companies using other people's money, dump the debt onto the acquired company itself, then start slashing staff, services, anything that slows down a quick profit. The goal isn't to build, it's to flip. And here's the kicker. Even if the acquired company fails, private equity still cashes out through management fees, dividends, and other tricks. They're not in it to save businesses. They're here to strip them for parts, like house flippers, but with nursing homes and grocery stores. So how do they do this? At the heart of nearly every private equity deal is an LBO, a leverage buyout. Here's how it works. The private equity firm buys a company, but instead of using its own money, it borrows most of it, usually 80% or more. Then it loads that debt onto the acquired company it just bought. This isn't like buying a business. It's like making the business acquire itself. The acquired company now has to pay off that mountain of debt, not the private equity firm. This one move, which is absolutely key, is what makes the model work. It's about maximum control and minimum risk for the private equity firm. Once the deal closes, the private equity firm piles on the fees. A 2% management fee every year no matter what. A 20% cut of the profits, also known as carried interest, if they sell at a gain. Plus consulting fees, transaction fees, advisory fees, all paid by the acquired company, not the private equity firm. Then comes the cost cutting. Jobs slashed, wages frozen, pensions gutted, corners cut on maintenance and safety, anything to squeeze out short-term cash flow. They'll also start selling off assets, real estate, equipment, even intellectual property, just to pull out more money. This can happen within months of the buyout. And if the company fails, No problem for the private equity firm. They have already made money on fees, dividends, and asset sales. The workers, suppliers, and communities are left holding the bag, and if the collapse is big enough, taxpayers step in to clean up the mess. If private equity bought your home, it would go something like this. Imagine someone buys your house, but instead of using their own money, they take out a massive mortgage and put it in your name. Then they start charging you rent to live in your own house. They stop fixing the plumbing, rip out and sell the copper wiring, and bill you for lawn care. And when the place is falling apart, they sell all your appliances, your antiques and collectibles, and anything else of value, then walk away with a suitcase of cash, and you're left holding the debt and a ruined home. That's a leverage buyout. And in the private equity world, that move isn't criminal. It's considered brilliant. This isn't capitalism, it's extraction. Capitalism is supposed to reward risk, innovation, and value creation. Private equity does none of that. It takes functioning companies, drowns them in debt, extracts value, and leaves behind a shell. Even in failure, they win. This isn't investing, it's strip mining, and it should be illegal. Another way to look at it, it's financial alchemy in 4 steps. This is how private equity turns borrowed money into profit by shifting the risk, extracting the value, and leaving the mess behind. Number 1, borrow in the acquired company's name. Place the debt on the acquired company's books, not your own. Number 2, launder the debt. Money flows in as debt and magically comes out as transaction fees, management fees, and dividends paid from the issuance of new debt. Number 3, extract returns. This borrowed money flows out to the private equity firm as if it's profit. Number 4, leave the risk behind. The company is now saddled with debt, struggling to survive, and often headed for layoffs or bankruptcy. Once again, it's not value creation, it's value extraction. They turn debt into dividends and call it investment success. They don't create anything of value. Yes, some private equity firms improve companies, invest in growth, and sometimes they might even create something of lasting value. But this is rare and not the deals we're talking about. The exception does not excuse the rule, and the rule is broken. Private equity isn't always about destruction. It's often about control. For example, private equity owns vast portfolios of single-family homes, multifamily apartment buildings, office buildings, warehouses and logistics centers, strip malls, and retail centers. They also own huge shares of specialized sectors like healthcare, real estate, and manufactured housing. They own many nursing homes, hospitals, and medical office buildings. And in addition, trailer parks have become a high-margin asset class for private equity. The big players include Blackstone, Brookfield, KKR, the Carlyle Group, Starwood Capital, among others. Private equity isn't just buying companies. They're buying our neighborhoods, our clinics, and commercial districts. When housing becomes a spreadsheet asset, families lose financial stability and communities lose control. They have bought up tens of thousands of houses across the country, outbidding local buyers like young families with all-cash offers and turning these homes into rental properties. In some metro areas, these institutional investors own over 20% of all single-family rentals. And what are the results? Rising rents and reduced maintenance. Evictions, especially during downturns. Focus on short-term returns over community stability. Leverage acquisitions that lead to distress and downturns, especially in commercial property. And as private equity dominates residential and commercial real estate, prices and rents decouple from local wages and conditions. Homes become investment vehicles, not places to live. Market forces give way to institutional pricing power. Private equity and rental real estate is pure rent seeking. They don't build or improve. They acquire, raise rents, cut service, and extract income simply by owning. It's not housing to them, it's a yield strategy. Rent seeking is a system where the powerful use their position not to create value, but to extract wealth from others without contributing anything productive in return. It's not about building, innovating, or improving. It's about owning access, whether to housing, land, licenses, patents, monopolies, or government favors, and charging others to use it. Think of it like this. A landlord raises rent just because they can, not because they improve the property. A drug company patents a life-saving medicine and jacks up the price, not because it costs more to make, but because they control access. A private equity firm buys a utility and raises rates while cutting service, not to provide better energy, but to boost returns. In rent-seeker economics, the economy shifts from value creation to value extraction. This is where the U.S. economy is today. The rich get richer by skimming off the top, while everyone else pays more for less. I'll say it again. It's not value creation, it's value extraction. So what does all this look like in the real world? Beloved brands, essential services, and entire industries gutted for short-term profit. This is what happens when private equity is allowed to do what it does best. Load companies with debt, strip them for parts, and walk away rich, no matter the damage left behind. Let's look at the wreckage. Jo-Ann Fabrics, bankrupt. Toys R Us, dead. Payless Shoes, gone. Radio Shack, adios. Local newspapers, ghosted. Hospitals, shuttered. Apartments and rental homes, snatched up by faceless firms that jack up rents and ignore repairs. Aspen Dental, still technically alive, but rated 1 to 2 stars and drowning in complaints about overpriced services, shady billing, and corporate upselling. Let's take a look at a few of these in more detail. Jo-Ann Fabrics was acquired by Leonard Green & Partners, a private equity firm known for aggressive debt practices that have tanked more than a few companies. Jo-Ann filed for bankruptcy in 2024, closing all stores and firing 19,000 employees. Despite investing just $400 million, Leonard Green & Partners reportedly extracted up to $3 billion in fees and dividends. Oh, and Leonard Green & Partner, they were also behind the 2024 bankruptcy of the Container Store and the collapse of Prospect Medical Holding, which ran dozens of hospitals and clinics across our country. Toys R Us, bought in 2005 by Bain Capital partner Mitt Romney's old firm. Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy in 2017 and shut down U.S. operations in 2018, killing 33,000 jobs. It died under the weight of debt it never had a chance to outrun. Aspen Dental, owned by private equity firms Lloyd Green & Partners, Eros Management, and American Securities. In 2021, the state of Massachusetts sued Aspen Dental for deceptive practices, including bait-and-switch advertising schemes. This was the second time the state had gone after Aspen Dental. Aspen Dental has paid $1.7 million in state settlements across Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, New York, and Indiana. Meanwhile, those same private equity firms have pulled out over $1.1 billion in debt-funded dividends from the company since 2012. Shitty service, deceptive billing, legal trouble, but $1 billion in profits for the owners. And these are just a few of the casualties. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of stories like these. where private equity firms show up, extract what they can, wreck what's left, and move on. From nursing homes and pet hospitals to call centers, colleges, grocery chains, newspapers, and more. The model stays the same. Load it with debt, slash it to the bone, and get paid no matter what. This isn't just a national issue. It's hitting us here at home. Milwaukee has seen firsthand what happens when private equity moves in. Long-standing businesses gutted, jobs lost, and communities left behind. Here are just two examples of the local impact. Shopko was acquired in 2005 by Sun Capital Partners, a private equity firm, for around $1.1 million, and declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy in January 2019 and liquidated despite Sun Capital turning a profit. Workers suffered while Sun Capital extracted value and walked away wealthier. Bush Precision, a family-run Milwaukee machine shop for over 110 years. It was bought by Michigan-based private equity firm Blue Water Equity Partners and then abruptly closed, leaving all employees jobless. Job losses are baked into the model. Private equity firms claim that they streamline operations, which really means firing people fast to boost short-term profits. Studies show buyouts reduce jobs by 13% on average and up to 30% in some industries within the first 2 years. Wages and hours also take a hit. Survivors often face frozen pay, slashed hours, and replacement by part-time or contract labor to dodge benefits. Burnout skyrockets, and service quality plummets. Benefits get gutted, healthcare plans shrink, retirement contributions vanish, pensions often raided or erased entirely, even after decades of work. To service debt, companies cut training and maintenance, leading to more injuries, worse care, and unstable workplaces where workers are disposable. Private equity doesn't just wreck businesses, it guts entire communities. When grocery chains go bankrupt, they leave behind food deserts. When workers lose their jobs, they often lose pensions and back pay, and the burden falls to taxpayer-funded safety nets. Many end up on unemployment, food stamps, welfare, or worse, homeless. Hospitals close, especially in rural areas and underserved areas. Nursing homes cut staff and care. Private equity-owned nursing homes experience 11% higher death rates, leading to over 1,000 unnecessary deaths a year. When private equity destroys a local employer, it doesn't just erase jobs, it erases relationships, creativity, and capability, reducing people's lives to line items on a spreadsheet. The wealth once rooted in our communities is siphoned off to Manhattan and London, while we're left with empty storefronts, shuttered hospitals, and broken lives. I've heard people say, "What's the big deal? These companies would have gone under anyway." That might be partly true. Some of these businesses, not all, may have eventually struggled and eventually disappeared. But private equity doesn't just let a company fail. It accelerates and amplifies the collapse. They load it with way more debt, strip its assets, and cash out early. What could have been a manageable decline or restructuring turns into a full-blown catastrophe. Massive layoffs, gutted pensions, shuttered locations, and entire communities left reeling. It's not that failure is impossible. It's that private equity makes the landing as hard and harmful as possible for everyone else. Some people may believe they are not impacted by private equity, but ultimately taxpayers pay the price. When private equity wrecks a company, guess who foots the bill? You do. When workers lose jobs, taxpayers cover the fallout. unemployment, Medicaid, food stamps, all the public safety nets absorbed the damage. Toys R Us laid off 33,000 workers with no severance. Taxpayers picked up the tab. Cities lose revenue and communities get hollowed out. Empty storefronts kill property and sales tax revenue. Home values decline, and local governments often gave these firms tax incentives or development subsidies they'll never get back. And when private equity deals go bust, pensions suffer losses and public retirement systems lose money. But private equity firms keep their fees regardless. The bottom line, private equity gets rich up front. When the collapse comes, they vanish. We're left holding the bag. It's socialism for the billionaire class and rugged capitalism for everyone else. People often ask, why do business owners sell to private equity? Owners may want to take chips off the table after years of building the business. Private equity offers a large upfront payout, and understandably, this is hard for a business owner to turn down. Many small and mid-sized businesses have no succession plan. Private equity offers a clean exit or phased transition out of the business. This is especially appealing when there's no next generation ready to take over. Many owners are sold a dream, only to see their legacy gutted. Business owners are often sold on a strategic partnership pitch, promises of growth, resources, and expertise. But what they don't realize is that it's often the first step in losing control of everything they built. Once private equity cuts costs, loads debt onto the company, extracts dividends and fees, what looked like a partnership can quickly become control without consent. Many owners regret selling when they see longtime employees laid off and the brand and reputation destroyed. None of this is an accident. The system was rigged to allow this. In the 1980s, Reagan-era regulators looked the other way while Wall Street weaponized junk bonds, which are risky, high-interest debt, to fund leverage buyouts. It turned debt into a business model and gave rise to modern private equity. In the 1990s, Clinton-era rule changes let pension funds pour billions into private equity, fueling its rapid growth. The National Securities Market Improvement Act of 1996 stripped away state oversight, letting private equity firms raise more money faster with less regulation. Then there's the carried interest loophole. Still alive today, this tax break lets private equity executives pay lower tax rates than their assistants by classifying income as capital gains instead of wages. Private equity doesn't just rig the economy, it rigs the system. Private equity firms and their lobbyists spend millions every year to protect tax breaks like the carried interest loophole and to block oversight. They recruit ex-politicians and regulators, and in return, many officials go to work for private equity after leaving office. And the money flows to both parties. Mitt Romney co-founded Bain. Blackstone CEO Stephen Schwarzman is a top donor to both parties. Democrats and Republicans alike take their checks, host their fundraisers, and join them post-office. George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton both went to work in private equity after leaving office. And since private equity manages trillions in pension funds, even public unions and state treasurers are financially tied to their success and less likely to push back and often look the other way. With minimal transparency and no public shareholders, private equity flies under the radar, out of sight, out of reach, and deeply embedded in power. They don't just game the market, they own the rule book and the referees. Private equity's looting has gone on long enough. It's time to shut down their scams, stop their debt-fueled takeovers, and hold them accountable. These reforms aren't optional. They are urgent and necessary to save our economy and protect working people. Number 1, end the carried interest tax scam. Carried interest is the ultimate tax scam for the ultra-wealthy. It lets private equity and hedge fund managers take millions in compensation and pretend it's an investment, just to dodge taxes the rest of us have to pay. They call it skin in the game, but it's not their money at risk. They take a cut of profits from other people's capital. They pay half the tax rate a teacher, a nurse, or a firefighter does on their paycheck. This loophole doesn't reward risk, innovation, or hard work. It rewards proximity to money and power. It costs taxpayers billions, fuels income inequality, and undermines trust in the system. If we can't close a loophole this obvious, who is the tax code really written for? Number 2, ban leverage buyouts. This is an easy one. Turning debt into profit while leaving ruin behind. That's not capitalism. It's corporate alchemy and theft. Number 3, cut off taxpayer subsidies for job killers. No public contracts, bailouts, or tax breaks for private equity-owned firms that slash jobs, gut benefits, and destroy communities. Number 4, tie profits to risk. Private equity profits, whether companies win or fail. That removes any incentive to play fair and invites reckless, harmful risk-taking. Winning no matter what is not capitalism, it's a rigged game. Number 5, ban private equity takeovers in critical sectors. Healthcare, housing, education, and infrastructure aren't casinos. Keep them out of private equity hands. Number 6, end shadow gains with transparency. Require private equity firms to disclose ownership, fees, and debt to prevent secret abuses. More importantly, make the private sector subject to FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. Currently, FOIA only applies to federal agencies, not to private companies, even if they do business with the government. And number 7, enforce antitrust laws like we mean it. Break up monopolies and block mergers that kill competition and raise prices. None of this is radical. It's common sense to protect everyday Americans, workers, communities, and the economy. Here's the bottom line. Private equity is not investing in the economy. It's harvesting it for parts. They make billions loading companies with debt, cutting jobs, selling off assets, and cashing out before the collapse. The public pays the price through lost jobs, gutted pensions, higher rents, worse health care, and broken communities. It's not capitalism. It's corporate racketeering and white-collar organized crime. And worse, this concentration of money and power doesn't just hollow out businesses. It destroys democracy itself. When the wealthy control the rules and the politicians, democracy becomes a game rigged to serve their interests, silencing the voices of everyday people. If we don't rewrite the rules, they won't stop until the country is unrecognizable, owned and gutted, and sold for parts. Left unchecked, private equity will keep hollowing out the economy until there is nothing left to loot, not even the shell of a middle class. What we can all do. Number 1, we can call our reps. Support laws that put boundaries on private equity. Even if most of them are in private equity's pocket, they still need to hear from you. Pressure creates cracks. Share your stories. This stuff thrives in silence, and your voice breaks the cover. And follow watchdogs like Americans for Financial Reform, who are keeping score while the rest of us are distracted by the next headline. Thanks for hanging in there. Questions, rants, horror stories of your own, please email me. And if you want to go deeper, read Plunder by Brendan Ballou or Bad Company by Megan Greenwell. It's like pulling back the curtain on a financial horror show. Thank you.